Girl sees unconscious millionaire bitten by a venomous snake. Then she does this. Comment telling me what you thought of this story with a rating from 0 to 10, and comment from which city you are watching me. I really want to know if you liked my story, and I want to get to know you better, so subscribe to my channel to support my work. I'm counting on your help. The smell of damp earth mixed with green coffee beans hung in the morning air when Lily woke up in the small wooden cabin. At 4 years old, she had already learned to wake up before the sun to help her grandmother Eleanor with the morning chores. The cabin stood in a clearing near the dusty road that connected Maple Creek to Pine Ridge, surrounded by coffee fields that stretched as far as the eye could see. "Grandma, can I go play by the creek today?" asked Lily, arranging her corn husk dolls in a cardboard box that served as her toy chest. Eleanor, a 68-year-old woman with grey hair always tied in a tight bun, smiled as she lit the wood-fired stove. "You can, my girl, but don't go too far. And be careful with the snakes. You know they like the water." Lily nodded seriously. Eleanor always warned her about the dangers of the woods, but the girl had a natural curiosity that made her explore every corner of the small world she knew. After a simple breakfast, homemade bread with butter and sweet, milky coffee, she ran towards the creek that flowed about 200 yards from the cabin. The sun was beginning to warm up when Lily reached the water's edge. She liked to sit on a large rock and watch the small fish swimming among the stones at the bottom. It was her moment of peace, where she created stories in her mind about princes and princesses who lived underwater. That's when she heard a muffled groan coming from the other bank. Lily looked up and saw a man lying in the grass, wearing elegant clothes that contrasted with the wild surroundings. He was motionless, and something colorful was moving near his arm. When the girl looked more closely, her heart pounded. A coral snake, with its red, black, and yellow bands, was coiled around the man's forearm. Without a second thought, Lily grabbed a long branch from the ground and ran across the creek, the cold water soaking her rubber sandals. The snake raised its head when it noticed the girl's approach, but Lily showed no fear. With careful movements she had learned from watching Eleanor shoo snakes from the yard, she poked the reptile with the tip of the branch until it uncoiled and slithered into the woods. The man was pale, sweating profusely, and his breathing was ragged. Lily touched his face with her small hand and felt he was burning with fever. "Mister, are you okay?" she asked, but got no answer. Lily ran back home like she had never run before, her bare feet flying over the dirt path. "Grandma! Grandma! There's a hurt man by the creek. A snake bit him." Eleanor dropped the broom she was holding and ran after her granddaughter. When she saw the fallen man, she immediately recognized the face that appeared in local newspapers and on the television at Joe's bar. "My goodness, it's Marcus Thorne," she murmured, kneeling beside the wealthiest businessman in the region. Marcus Thorne, at 55, owned several coffee plantations in the area and was known for his fortune and political influence. Eleanor knew he lived in a luxurious mansion in the center of Maple Creek, but she never imagined she would see him here, nearly dead on the bank of the creek. "Lily, run to the road and stop the first car that passes. Say it's urgent, that there's a man who needs to go to the hospital," Eleanor ordered, checking Marcus's pulse. The girl obeyed promptly. Half an hour later, a kind truck driver helped carry Marcus into the bed of his truck. Eleanor climbed in with him, holding the businessman's hand while Lily clung to her grandmother's skirt. At the Maple Creek Hospital, doctors confirmed that Marcus had been bitten by a coral snake. The venom had already spread through his system, and he was in critical condition. The doctors said that if he had arrived any later, he wouldn't have survived. For 3 weeks, Marcus remained hospitalized, drifting between consciousness and delirium. In his moments of high fever, he spoke of a girl with big eyes who had appeared like an angel to save him. The nurses thought they were just hallucinations caused by the medication. Eleanor and Lily visited him every day. The girl, brought drawings she made with colored pencils borrowed from the nurses, always drawings of flowers and birds, which she left on the small table beside Marcus's bed. Eleanor remained silent most of the time, just watching the powerful man fight against the venom coursing through his veins. When Marcus finally regained full consciousness, the first thing he did was ask for Lily. He vaguely remembered a sweet little voice calling to him, of small hands touching his face with care. "Where is the girl who brought me here?" he asked the doctor. "What girl, Mr. Thorne? You were brought in by an elderly woman," the doctor replied, consulting his chart. Marcus frowned. His memories were fuzzy, but he was sure a child had been involved in his rescue. He asked to speak with Eleanor, but the nurses informed him that she and her granddaughter had stopped visiting 3 days ago. "Did they leave an address?" Marcus insisted. No one knew where to find Eleanor and Lily. It was as if they had simply disappeared. Marcus was discharged a week later, but his mind couldn't forget the girl with the big eyes. He drove to the area where he had been found, looked for the cabin near the creek, but only found the empty plot of land. Neighbors in the rural area said that Eleanor had left with her granddaughter one dawn, taking only a small suitcase. Marcus's obsession with finding his saviors grew with each passing day. He hired private detectives, placed ads in local newspapers, and offered rewards for information. Nothing. It was as if Eleanor and Lily had vanished from the face of the earth. 3 months after the accident, when Marcus was already losing hope, he received a call that would change everything. It was from Beatrice Crane, a social worker in the town of Stonebridge, who had seen one of his ads in the newspaper. "Mr. Thorne, I believe I may have information about the girl you're looking for," she said over the phone, "but I need to speak with you in person. It's a more complicated situation than you might imagine." Beatrice Crane's office in Stonebridge was small and cramped, with piles of files scattered all over the worn wooden desk. Marcus arrived promptly at 2 in the afternoon, wearing a dark suit that contrasted with the simple environment of the social worker's office. Beatrice, a 42-year-old woman with brown hair tied in a ponytail, received him with a serious look that made him understand immediately that this conversation would change his life. "Mr. Thorne, before we begin, I need you to answer a question for me," Beatrice said, adjusting her glasses. "Are you absolutely sure you want to know the truth about Lily?" Marcus frowned. "Lily? Is that her name?" "Yes, Lily Santos, 4 years old. But Mr. Thorne, there is something about this child that will deeply shake your family. Are you sure you want to proceed?" Marcus nodded without hesitation. Since the accident with the snake, he felt his life had gained a new purpose. Finding the girl who had saved him had become more important than his business or his fortune. Beatrice opened a yellowed folder and took out several documents. Lily is not Eleanor Santos's biological granddaughter. In fact, Eleanor found this girl abandoned over 3 years ago, when she was only a few months old. Marcus's world seemed to stop. Abandoned? By whom? "This is the hard part, Mr. Thorne." Beatrice took a deep breath. "Lily was given to Eleanor by an intermediary named Owen Reed, who works in the local market in Maple Creek. And the person who paid for this transaction was your daughter, Stella." Marcus stood up abruptly from his chair, his face turning pale. "That's impossible. My daughter has never had children. She lost a baby 15 years ago, but—" "Mr. Thorne, Stella didn't lose any baby. She lied to the whole family." Beatrice showed him a birth certificate. "Lily is your biological granddaughter." Marcus's hands trembled as he took the document. There it was, written clearly. Mother, Stella Thorne. Father, not identified. The date of birth matched exactly with the time Stella had said she lost the baby. How did you get this information?" Marcus asked, his voice reduced to a whisper. Eleanor came to our office 2 months ago. She's sick, Mr. Thorne. Severe memory problems. She knew she couldn't take care of Lily for much longer and wanted to sort out the girl's situation before it was too late. Beatrice went on to explain that Eleanor had kept a letter from Stella all these years with specific instructions on the child's care. The letter revealed intimate details about Lily's personality that only a biological mother could know. How she liked to be rocked to sleep, how she was afraid of thunderstorms, how she loved to draw flowers. "Where are they now?" Marcus asked, still processing the devastating revelation. Eleanor was admitted to a nursing home last week. She doesn't even remember her own name anymore. Lily is in our temporary shelter here in Stonebridge. Marcus felt the world crumbling around him. His daughter Stella, now married to Dr. Robert Vance and living a seemingly perfect life in Maple Creek society, had lied to him for 15 years. She had abandoned her own daughter and allowed him to miss the first years of his granddaughter's life. "Can I see her? Can I see Lily?" he asked. His voice choked with emotion. Beatrice nodded. "But I must warn you, she's traumatized. She's lost the only mother figure she ever knew. She's having nightmares every night, refuses to eat properly, and constantly cries for Eleanor." The shelter was just a 10-minute drive from Beatrice's office. It was a simple building, painted a light yellow, with a small playground in the yard where several children played under the supervision of caregivers. Marcus followed Beatrice down the hallways, his heart beating erratically. Lily was sitting alone on a small chair in the activity room, drawing with crayons on a white piece of paper. She had grown since Marcus had seen her in the hospital, but her big eyes were still the same. Now, however, they were filled with a deep sadness that broke his heart. "Lily, there's someone here who would like to meet you," Beatrice said softly. The girl looked up and recognized Marcus immediately. "The Snake Man," she said in a tiny voice. "Are you better?" Marcus knelt to her level, struggling to control his emotion. "I am better, yes. Thanks to you, little one." Lily turned her attention back to the drawing. It was a small house with a tree beside it and two female figures, one tall and one small, holding hands in front of the house. "Is that you and Grandma Eleanor?" Marcus asked. Lily nodded, a single tear rolling down her face. "When is Grandma coming to get me?" Beatrice and Marcus exchanged a meaningful look. How could they explain to a 4-year-old that the only person she knew as family had lost her memory and would never come back? Marcus spent 2 hours at the shelter, watching Lily play, trying to win her trust. She was a sweet and intelligent girl, but clearly haunted by the sudden loss of Eleanor. When it was time to leave, she ran to him and held his hand. "Are you going to take me to see Grandma Eleanor?" she asked, her big eyes full of hope. Marcus felt his heart shatter. "I'll do everything I can to help you, Lily. I promise." That night, Marcus arrived home determined to confront Stella. His daughter lived in a mansion in the most exclusive neighborhood of Maple Creek with her doctor husband, leading an intense social life and being admired by the entire local community as an exemplary wife. Marcus called Stella and arranged to meet the next day. He didn't say why, only that they needed to talk about something important. Stella agreed, intrigued, and suggested they meet at Marcus's main plantation where they could have privacy. Stella arrived promptly at 10 in the morning, driving her white BMW and wearing an elegant business suit. At 38, she had inherited her mother's beauty and her father's determination, but she hid secrets that were about to come to light. "Dad, you look strange. Did something happen?" she asked, kissing Marcus's cheek. "Stella, I need you to tell me the truth about what happened 15 years ago. About the baby you said you lost." The smile vanished instantly from Stella's face. She turned pale and stepped away from her father, her hands trembling slightly. "What are you talking about, Dad? You know that subject is painful for me." Marcus took Lily's birth certificate from his briefcase. I'm talking about your daughter, Stella, my granddaughter, who is in a shelter in Stonebridge because you abandoned her over 4 years ago. Stella sank heavily into a chair, her face drained of all color. For long seconds, silence filled the plantation office. When she finally spoke, her voice was just a whisper. How did you find out? Stella remained silent for almost 10 minutes, tears streaming silently down her face as Marcus waited for an explanation. The plantation office, which had always been a place of tranquility for them both, now seemed charged with suffocating tension. I was 16, Dad, Stella began, her voice trembling. I was in my senior year of high school. The baby's father was a guy from another town I met at a party. When I found out I was pregnant, he just disappeared. Marcus moved closer to his daughter, but she held up a hand, asking for distance. I need to tell you everything at once, or I'll never be able to. Stella revealed that she had hidden the pregnancy from everyone for months, wearing loose clothes and making excuses not to participate in social activities. When she could no longer hide it, she invented the story of losing the baby to protect her reputation and that of the family. I was so scared, Dad, scared of disappointing you, scared of what society would say about our family. You were so respected, you had so much influence in the city. I couldn't tarnish your name. The birth took place in secret at a clinic in Charlotte. Stella had gotten the address through Owen Reed, whom she had met at a church charity event. Owen had introduced himself as someone who helped families in difficult situations. He told me he knew a kind old woman who would take good care of the child, that she would be raised with love in a simple but honest family. I paid for 3 years of care, believing it would be temporary, that when I got married and was financially stable, I could get my daughter back. Marcus felt a mixture of anger and compassion consuming his chest. And why did you never try? Because when I married Robert, 3 years later, I found out he couldn't have children due to a medical issue. He always made it clear that our life would be perfect just as we were, just the two of us. He was terrified of any complication that might affect his medical career. Stella said that during the first years of her marriage, she thought constantly of Lily. She even sought out Owen again, but he said it would be better for everyone if she kept her distance, that the child was happy and well-adjusted, and a reunion could cause trauma. But I could never completely forget, Stella whispered. I knew where Eleanor lived. Sometimes I would drive out there just to see her from a distance. The most shocking confession came next. Stella revealed that, for the past 2 years, she had posed as a volunteer for social outreach programs in the region where Eleanor and Lily lived. She participated in food and clothing drives, always wearing a scarf over her head and dark glasses so as not to be recognized. I saw my daughter growing up, Dad. I saw her playing, running, singing those songs Eleanor taught her. She was so beautiful, so smart. And I just stood there, hidden, watching the life I had given to someone else to raise. Marcus was stunned. Does Robert know any of this? He never suspected my charitable activities. In fact, he always praised my social work, said I was an exemplary wife for helping those in need. At that moment, Marcus's cell phone rang. It was Beatrice, calling from the shelter. Mr. Thorne, we have an urgent situation. Lily had a crisis this morning. She hasn't stopped crying and has refused to eat for 2 days. She's constantly calling for Eleanor and, well, she's asking for you too. Marcus looked at Stella, who had overheard the conversation. I'm going to Stonebridge right now. I'm going with you, Stella said, wiping her tears. No, you need to sort out your life first. You need to tell Robert the truth. Stella's face contorted with fear. Dad, if I tell him about Lily, my marriage will be over. He'll leave me. And you'd rather maintain your lie than get to know your own daughter? Marcus replied, his voice heavy with disappointment. The drive to Stonebridge was the longest of Marcus's life. When he arrived at the shelter, he found Lily lying on a small cot, hugging a worn-out teddy bear that Eleanor had given her years ago. The girl was feverish and clearly weakened. "Lily, how are you feeling?" Marcus asked, sitting beside the bed. "I want Grandma Eleanor," she murmured, without opening her eyes. "She promised she would never leave me." Beatrice explained that she had tried to take Lily to visit Eleanor at the nursing home, but the elderly woman no longer recognized her. The illness had progressed rapidly, and Eleanor now spent her days staring out the window, not recognizing anyone. "The visit traumatized the girl even more," Beatrice said. "She doesn't understand why her grandmother doesn't know her." Marcus spent the entire afternoon beside Lily, telling her stories, trying to get her to eat a few spoonfuls of soup. Slowly, the girl began to open up again, but it was clear she was deeply affected by the loss of Eleanor. "Snake Man," she said suddenly, "do you have a family?" The question pierced Marcus's heart. "I do. I have a daughter." "Is she pretty like Grandma Eleanor?" Marcus smiled sadly. "She's very beautiful, and you know what? I think you two would get along very well." When Marcus returned to Maple Creek that night, he found Stella waiting for him on his porch. She was visibly shaken, her eyes red from crying. "How is she?" Stella asked. "Devastated, lost, needing her mother." Stella sighed deeply. "I told Robert." The world stopped for Marcus. And he left. He said our marriage was based on a lie and that he needs time to think. He took just one suitcase and said he's going to stay at his apartment in Charlotte. Stella recounted that Robert's reaction had been worse than she had imagined. He was not only shocked by the lie about the pregnancy, but also felt betrayed to discover that for years she had secretly visited the daughter she had abandoned. "He said he doesn't know me anymore," Stella continued, her voice breaking, "that the woman he married doesn't exist, that I built our entire life on a lie." "And now?" Marcus asked. "Now I want to meet my daughter. I want to try to be the mother I never was to her. I know I don't deserve forgiveness from her or from you, but I have to try to fix what I broke." Marcus watched his daughter for long moments. He saw in her the same desperation he had seen in Lily's eyes that afternoon. Two lost people, hurt by the choices of the past. "The process to get custody of Lily will be complicated," he said finally. "You abandoned a child. Legally, that's a crime." "I know, Beatrice already explained it to me, but she said that considering the circumstances and with a good lawyer, I might be able to get at least shared custody with you." That night, for the first time in 15 years, father and daughter talked until dawn. Stella told him about every secret visit she had made to Lily, about watching her daughter grow from a distance, about the pain of not being able to get closer. Marcus spoke of the plans he had begun to make for the family. He wanted to turn one of the plantations into a place where Lily could grow up happy, surrounded by nature and freedom. "Dad," Stella said as the sun began to rise, "I'm afraid she won't accept me, that it's too late for us to build a relationship." Marcus held his daughter's hand. "Lily is only 4 years old. There's still time for everything, but you need to be prepared for a long journey. She won't accept you as her mother overnight." What neither of them knew was that, at that very moment, in Stonebridge, Lily had woken up from a nightmare and was drawing again. But this time, her drawing showed not just two female figures, but also a tall, male figure, the man who had promised to help her. And for the first time since Eleanor had disappeared from her life, Lily fell back asleep with a small smile on her face. 6 months had passed since Marcus discovered the truth about Lily. The legal process to establish shared custody between him and Stella had been more complex than they imagined. During this time, Lily remained at the shelter in Stonebridge. But now she received regular visits from her grandfather and gradually from her biological mother. The first few weeks had been devastating. Lily flatly refused to be alone with Stella, screaming and crying whenever Marcus left the room. The girl didn't understand why this elegant woman insisted on visiting her, why she cried when she looked at her, why she tried to hug her with such desperation. "She's not my mom," Lily would state categorically to Beatrice. "My mom left when I was little, and Grandma Eleanor took care of me. I don't know this lady." Beatrice worked patiently with both of them, explaining complex concepts like adoption and biological family to Lily, and helping Stella understand that building a relationship with her daughter would be a long and painful process. The turning point came on a rainy day in March. Lily was in the shelter's courtyard, sadly watching the other children play, when Stella arrived for her weekly visit. This time she wasn't alone. She brought with her a frail, elderly woman in a wheelchair. "Grandma Eleanor," Lily shouted, running towards the wheelchair. Eleanor looked up with confused eyes, showing no recognition at all. Stella had obtained special permission to take the elderly woman from the nursing home to the shelter, hoping the reunion might help both Eleanor and Lily. "Grandma, it's me, Lily, your little granddaughter. Why won't you talk to me?" the girl asked, holding Eleanor's hand. Eleanor just smiled vaguely, her eyes lost in a fog the disease had created in her mind. Lily stayed there for an hour, talking to her grandmother, telling her about her days at the shelter, showing her drawings. Eleanor didn't respond once. When it was time for Eleanor to return to the nursing home, Lily finally understood that her grandmother would never be the same again. For the first time since arriving at the shelter, she voluntarily approached Stella. "Did you know my Grandma Eleanor?" Lily asked, with tears in her eyes. "Yes, I did," Stella answered softly. "She took very good care of you. She doesn't remember me anymore, but you remember her, and that's what's important." From that day on, Lily slowly began to accept Stella's presence. She discovered that her biological mother knew strange things about her, how she liked her food served, how she preferred her hair to be combed, how she was afraid of sleeping in the dark. "How do you know that?" Lily would ask, intrigued. Because I've always known about you," Stella would reply, not having the courage to fully reveal the truth about her secret visits. In May, the court's decision finally came. Marcus was granted primary custody of Lily, with Stella having the right to supervised visits. The judge ruled that, after a period of adjustment, the custody could be re-evaluated. Marcus had prepared a special room for Lily at the main plantation. It was large, bright, with a big window overlooking the coffee fields. He had hired a pedagogue specializing in traumatized children and a child psychologist to help Lily with her adjustment. The first month on the plantation was difficult. Lily woke up every night screaming for Eleanor. She would walk the halls of the house looking for her grandmother, refused to eat at the large dining room table, preferring to have her meals on the floor of her room, as she did in the cabin. Marcus showed infinite patience. He learned to make the corn husk dolls that Lily adored. He built a treehouse in the backyard where she could hide when she felt overwhelmed. He planted a flower garden just for her, so she could draw the birds that always landed there. Stella visited 3 times a week. Each meeting was supervised by a social worker, but gradually the visits became more natural. Stella learned to draw the pictures Lily liked, to sing the songs Eleanor had taught her, to tell stories at bedtime. In June, something extraordinary happened. Robert showed up at Marcus's plantation unannounced. He had lost weight, had dark circles under his eyes, and appeared to be going through a severe personal crisis. "I came to get Stella," he told Marcus. "I need to talk to her." "She's with Lily in the garden," Marcus replied, pointing the way. Robert found Stella helping Lily plant sunflower seedlings. The scene had a profound impact on him. His wife, who for 8 years of marriage had been a distant and controlled social figure, was there on her knees in the dirt, messy and smiling genuinely as she taught a small child how to care for plants. "Stella," he called. She turned, surprised. "Robert, what are you doing here?" "I came to get you. I want you to come home." Lily looked curiously at the tall man in a white coat who was talking to her biological mother. Stella stood up, wiping her hands on her clothes. "Robert, I can't leave Lily now. She's just starting to trust me. Then I'll accept her too. I'll accept being her father." The silence that followed was charged with emotion. Stella looked at Lily, who had turned her attention back to the seedlings, then at Robert. "Why?" she asked. "Because these 3 months away from you have made me realize that I'd rather have a real, complicated life with you than a perfect, fake life without you. And because this child, she's a part of who you are. I was wrong to want you to hide that." Lily looked up at Robert. "Are you a doctor, like the one who took care of Grandpa Marcus when he got sick from the snake?" Robert knelt to her level. "I am, and if you'd like, I can take care of you too." "Will you go away like Grandma Eleanor did?" The question broke the hearts of everyone present. Robert looked firmly into Lily's eyes. "No, if you'll have me in your family, I promise I will never leave." That night, Marcus had a long conversation with Stella and Robert. Together, they developed a plan for the gradual reintegration of the family. Lily would continue to live at the plantation with Marcus, but would spend weekends at Stella and Robert's house. In time, when she felt secure, she could choose where she wanted to live. 6 months later, in December, something no one expected happened. Lily, now 5 years old and much more adjusted to her new life, made a special request to Marcus. "Grandpa, can I visit Grandma Eleanor for Christmas?" Marcus hesitated. Previous visits to the nursing home had been painful, as Eleanor no longer recognized anyone. But Lily insisted. On December 24th, the whole family, Marcus, Stella, Robert and Lily, went to the nursing home to visit Eleanor. The elderly woman was sitting in a rocking chair in the garden, staring vaguely at the horizon. Lily approached and began to sing softly the song that Eleanor had taught her years ago. It was a simple lullaby about little birds flying free in the sky. To everyone's surprise, Eleanor began to rock slowly in her chair, keeping time with the music. Then, in a weak but clear voice, she began to sing along. "Grandma!" exclaimed Lily, hugging Eleanor. Eleanor looked at the girl and, for a brief moment, her eyes lit up. My Lily," she murmured. It was just a moment. Soon after, Eleanor returned to her vacant state. But for Lily, those seconds of recognition were enough to understand that true love is never completely lost, even when memory fails. 3 years later, Lily had grown into a confident and happy girl. She divided her time between her grandfather's plantation and her parents' house, called Robert Dad, and had developed a genuine relationship with Stella. Marcus transformed part of his main plantation into a support center for children who, like Lily, had lost their families of origin. The center was named Grandma Eleanor's House, and Lily, though still a child herself, helped welcome new children, telling her own story and showing them that it was possible to find love and security again, even after great loss. Eleanor had passed away peacefully 2 years earlier, but her memory lived on in the center, in the drawings Lily made of free birds, and in the love she had planted in the heart of a girl who now dedicated herself to helping other children find their own families. The story had begun with abandonment and loneliness, but it ended with the discovery that family isn't just about blood. It's about love, dedication, and the willingness to fight for those we love, even when we've made terrible mistakes in the past. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe to my channel. I promise to bring you videos every day that will make your life happier. Comment what you thought of my story with a rating from 0 to 10, and thank you very much.